And good afternoon. Not sure if anyone's here with me quite yet. I'm going to start a little bit early. Just thought that. And good afternoon. Try to get warm a little bit. Sure if anyone. A little bit chilly here in the desert of Roswell, New Mexico. Actually getting some snowfall right now. We've gotten about, I think, 2 inches, maybe 3 inches of snow. They're expecting another 3 to 5 inches of snow here, which for New Mexico, or at least this part of New Mexico, is very rare. We don't have snow plows here. It's just a mess until the sun comes back out. Hopefully, well, probably not. I think it said all right. Hopefully, I am back. Let's see if this is going. Yeah, it looks like it. All right, Dale, can you hear me? All right. Yeah, sorry about that. We had the lights flicker and went off for a moment. We lost power, but didn't take much for it to come back on. As I said, Roswell here uh, is not really equipped to deal with the cold weather. As far as delay, I'm not sure how much that there is. I have YouTube open as well, so I could see the comments a little bit faster than what they appear on StreamYard. But we'll give it another shot, and hopefully the weather will hold out enough where we can actually talk some Star Wars and have some fun with it. No, it's definitely going to be a cold night tonight. I think we're going to all spend the evening over at my mother-in-law's house, just to make sure that we can stay warm till my gas main gets fixed, which hopefully will be in the next day or so. So, how's everybody doing? Don't be shy. Talk in the chat. I know Dale's here. Who else we have? Dale's here. Who else we have? And I apologize if it freezes up a little bit. But all right, so far this week, it is Tuesday night, so the week is going better than expected. Kids don't have school because of the snow. I got out of work early today because of the snow. Probably won't have to go in tomorrow, so it gives me more Star Wars watching time, which is always a good thing. But this week I had a couple of topics in mind. One of them was brought to my attention by one of my friends on Twitter, Semperfi Danny. I'm sure most of you guys follow her as well. And she was talking about music and the music of Star Wars. And that was, that really got me thinking about how amazing the music of Star Wars really is, and how amazing and unique a person like John Williams is. John Williams has been making music since the 1960s. I believe he has done almost 120 movies. He's done TV commercials, he's done TV shows, he's done the Olympic fanfare in 1984 for when the Olympics were in Los Angeles. He's done so much for film and cinema and for our entertainment. And it's odd that, well, I won't say odd, but every soundtrack that he has is unique. It's different. It's not something that you're not going to pick up, one that he did 10 years ago and be automatically, oh, yep, that's John Williams. It's got the same bars, the same key, it's the same pattern that he normally follows. All of his are extremely unique and strangely popular. A lot of people don't necessarily, think of cinematic scores as go-to music, but you play a bar or two of some of his compositions and people automatically know what it is. Hey Chris, how are we doing today? See Chris King in the chat. So John Williams, just his awards alone, 25 Grammys. 25 Grammys. He's won 7 British Academy Awards. He has won 5 American Academy Awards. He's won 4 Golden Globes. He's already been nominated this year for possibly his 6th Academy Award. I have it here in my notes so I wouldn't forget any of this stuff. Oh yeah, in 2005, AFI, which is the American Film Institute, announced that Star Wars was the greatest score of all time. Now, how impressive is that? That we have a gentleman that has scored 117, I think is the actual total, scores for different movies. And Star Wars was the one that they picked as the greatest soundtrack or the greatest score of all time. He's the second most nominated person, and the next one that, or the number one, is Walt Disney. And we all know what Walt Disney has done for all of his animated films and his innovations. And you have John Williams that has been, the second most nominated. Yeah, Dale, he rarely gives interviews, which I thought was odd. In fact, he was even the conductor of the Boston Pops from 1983 or 1980 to 1993, 94. And even then, he didn't really talk much. Get to saw him, or I've seen him twice in Boston conducting the Boston Pops, and even when he's on stage, he just announces things really briefly. Then he gets to business and starts conducting great music. So some of the things that I looked up on, in case a lot of people are like, "Oh, yeah, I've heard of John Williams, but I might not know, everything he's done." Here's some of his accomplishments as far as scores go. He's done Jaws. Dun, 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 dun. It's so iconic. He's done Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Superman with Christopher Reeve. He's done E.T. He did Indiana Jones, all the Indiana Jones. He did Home Alone 1 and 2. He did Hook. He did Jurassic Park, I believe, 1 and 2. He did Schindler's List, which to me is one of the most amazing movies, and most touching movies I have ever seen. And we'll get into that here in a little bit. He did iconic music for The Patriot. He did the Harry Potter movies, I think 1 through 3, Minority Report, AI. He's done so many and touched on so many different levels. And Chris said he did read one time that he had never watched a Star Wars movie except for while scoring it. And I believe that I saw that as well. Oh man, I forgot my banners. All right, so here we go. John Williams, genius. I'm still getting used to this live stream format, but I'll get there eventually. We've done his notable scores that he's done. We've gone over his awards that he's done. Now, here's a crazy fact about John Williams that you guys might not know. John Williams, even after doing 117 movies, various commercials, TV shows, for all of his nominations, for all of his awards that he has gotten, he does not have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. No star. You can walk up and down Hollywood Boulevard. You're not going to find it. He has touched so many people's lives. Let me say that. He's touched so many people's lives, but no star on the Walk of Fame. Now, I don't know if it's because there's a $3,000 fee that goes along with it. I don't know if it's because no one has nominated him. Maybe people think oh, John Williams, yeah, he's done so much, he's got to have at least a star, if not 2 or 3 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, but no stars. So perhaps he hasn't been nominated. Perhaps it's a fee. Maybe it's an honor that he really doesn't want to have. Carrie Fisher was the same way. She never really wanted a star there, and she never saw the point of it and the usefulness of it. But I don't know. I think I'm going to look into that a little bit. Maybe see if you can get a group of people together, see what it takes to actually nominate somebody for the Walk of Fame. who knows? Maybe we could. I bet we could GoFundMe or crowdsource or whatever you want to call that. The $3,000 fee that it takes um, to get on there. Let me throw the link on here. That way, if anybody wants to come in, that should be the link there. All right. So some of the other things that I was thinking of about John Williams was, of course, I always focus on Star Wars. It's the greatest movie franchise of all time, at least in my opinion. But what were my favorite moments of John Williams? And since there were so many of them, I just figured I'd pick one from each trilogy and go from there. So we'll start with A New Hope. My favorite, actually, I couldn't decide on one, so I had to go with two here. One was the Force theme. Now, I didn't go with the introduction because that's in a lot of, in fact, it's on all of the movies other than Solo and Rogue One. But the opening fanfare, which is iconic in its own right, I decided not to go with that one because it's in multiple movies. So the Force theme, which does, it's mainly in A New Hope. I really enjoyed it. They have snippets of it in other movies, but the full theme of it is just so whimsical, and it carries you away. And it's just, knowing that it's the Force theme, I can almost feel the Force around me when I hear the music start to swell. My other one that I really enjoyed was Leia's theme. It just it was so powerful. It's gentle but strong at the same time. It's really hard to describe. In fact, I heard a little portion of it when they did the preview or the teaser trailer for Rise of Skywalker, and they played Leia's theme in there, and it really made me well up with emotion, just being able to hear that, and knowing that she was gone, definitely not forgotten. Such The tone that one sets is just absolutely amazing. So then for the prequel trilogy, I think I had to go with Duel of the Fates. Another milestone in cinematic themes where you have a chorus that goes along with the music itself, and how it starts off slow and builds, and then the action, and I can hear the music and see the picture in my mind of the lightsaber duel that they have. It was just absolutely amazing. And most of the other films that you see, they don't combine the two aspects of the choral and the instrumentation as well. So I thought that that was had to be my pick there. And for the sequel trilogy, I don't think I could have gone wrong with Rey's theme. It was new, it was refreshing, it was light but serious and almost playful. And it just seemed like it was the rekindling of something amazing. And of course, we got the three movies that we did and saw the evolution of Rey in that. Oh, no problem, Chris. We appreciate you coming in. Absolutely. Before you go, do you have a favorite John Williams Star Wars piece that it could be anything? Another one of my favorites is the asteroid chase through the asteroid field in Empire Strikes Back. It just it built such suspense as they're trying to get away from the Empire and the asteroids. It just was very, very good. How about the rest of you in the chat? What do you got? What's your favorite Star Wars music, if there's any? All right. So we're going to keep on going here. Like I said, it might be a short one today. My toes are actually getting a little cold here. Dale says, I don't have a favorite. I love it all. Absolutely. There's just, it's so iconic, and it was hard for me to pick just one. Yeah, I agree. There are definitely some that emotional than others. Which was another question that I was thinking of is, how does it make you feel? How does it make me feel when I watch these scenes? I do a lot of what do they call that? Mashups in my music taste. Where they pick up two songs, they mash them together, and two songs you wouldn't think that would ever go together, and somehow they just fit. Star Wars to me isn't like that. You can't replace the music from another movie into a scene in Star Wars and have it fit the way that it does. It's just it completes the movie in ways that I don't think anyone else or any other score could have done. I've even tried watching Star Wars with the sound either very low or off because of needing to listen for the kids in the in that other part of the house. Be watching one of the movies and have to pause or just mute the television to hear what are they saying, what's going on in there. Is there about to be a fight? Do I have to go be referee? And I'm watching it, and you just I can hear it in my head, so it makes it a little easier. Hey, RFB's in the house. Welcome, Anthony. Welcome. So yeah, it's it just the music really doesn't. I can't separate the two, because I'll watch it and I'll either see or hear the music as the scene's playing in my head. It's the only movie that I think that, or the only series that does that for me, because now I'm so familiar with all of the music and all of them that I just can't I can't separate the two. And Real Farboy, we are talking about John Williams. We are talking about the music of Star Wars, how it makes us feel. I've went over a little bit of John Williams' accomplishments. And the travesty that it is that John Williams does not have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I cannot fathom that. As many, I don't want to say actors or actresses or directors that really don't deserve it, because I guess they all do. They're all nominated or whatnot. But I think that John Williams has affected more people through his music than most of the actors or actresses that are on that Walk of Fame. All right, get back over here to the comments. I agree, Michael, from the 2Med2 network. He says he really finds it interesting when they play something but in a different key on different shows or movies. I've seen that. In fact, not only that, when they did Solo, I know it's a Star Wars movie, but it was a different composer, I believe, that did that. They did a different take on John Williams' Imperial March. The Imperial March is set in a minor key, and for Solo, they moved it up to a major key and made it more poppy and more appealing instead of the dark, ominous tone that the Imperial March had for recruitment. And you could hear it as he's being questioned by the Imperial officer trying to enlist him. And you just hear it in the background. It's just a little bit, a little different, but it still echoed John Williams. Right, Anthony. He says that Saving Private Ryan was I agree 100%. There's so many other movies that he has touched on that or just incredible. Saving Private Ryan, the violin in Schindler's List was it makes me tear up every time I hear it. The swell of Superman when you hear the original one come on, makes me want to just rip open the chest and the shirt and have that big S on your chest. It's an absolutely amazing thing that the emotion that he can do. The Indiana Jones theme is another one that a couple of bars play and everyone's like, oh, that's Indiana Jones. The theme from E.T. when they're flying across the moon and that starts to go. It's a lot of older people will immediately recognize that one. The theme for Harry Potter, you hear the dun 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 dun, dun and it automatically, oh, Harry Potter, all right, something cool's about to happen. Oh, cool. I'm still getting, let's see. Michael Condon says that they also have it in Clone Wars as well. And yesterday we were on his show, The Bacta Tank, and we were talking about Clone Wars and how to watch it and the best way to watch it. And he's doing his rewatch, and I need to really get on mine because with season 7 coming out, I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball and need to catch up. But yeah, it's I love how they have bits and pieces here and there and how it just ties everything together. It's just it's simply amazing the way that music affects our lives, even away from Star Wars. We all have what they call the soundtrack of our life. It's everyone has their own favorite music, whether it's I don't know, Metallica or Pearl Jam and Nirvana, the grunge era, or AC/DC, Pink Floyd, some more of the old Led Zeppelin, some of the classic rock. We all have soundtracks that resonate within us, and how emotional that can bring to us. I can hear certain songs on the radio and I remember exactly what I was doing, when I first heard that song. And yeah, it's just, it's so cool how something like that can affect our emotions. And even movies, just with Star Wars, when you, in A New Hope, and you hear the dun, 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 dun as the ships are coming over, and you're like, oh wow, it's just sets the tone, sets the mood for all the magic that's about to happen. So what do you guys think? What are you guys' thoughts on John Williams? Yes, yes. Boo on my headwear. I understand that you know the best team in the nation is not loved by everyone, but that's all right. It could be worse. It could be the Giants or the Jets. You know, and I think I'm having a above average delay here. I'm not sure when I'm talking and when what you guys are hearing. So if there's a little bit of dead time, I do apologize. Again, the weather is just atrocious outside. When I came in from my mother in law's house, it was just starting to snow again. And we've already lost electricity once and had to restart. So hopefully, we're 30 minutes in, so hopefully uh, everything goes well for the rest of the way. Let me get this again, and all right. So I just posted the link for the live chat again. So if you guys want to jump in, right? I know, Anthony. It's strange. Now, about an hour and a half away, we do have some mountains, and they do get snow up there. In fact, they've had snow up there since November. But down here in the plains, now the lowest that it's been overnight is only been, I think, lowest has been 37, and the highs are normally in the 50s or 60s. Uh, just this last week, we had a high of 74, and then the next day it was 68, then 55, and then bam, today the high was 37, and we have snow on the road. So it's pretty crazy. We're expecting um, about let's see, we already got 2 inches. We're already expecting about another 3 to 5 inches. So most everybody has the day off tomorrow because we don't have plows or anything to clear the roads. So it should be fun. All right. All right. So that's what I had for John Williams. So now we're going to go to my second topic here. Changes. All right. So this one here is one that I thought of. Uh, I guess it was about last month. Someone sent out a picture of it was a Darth Vader helmet, just a partial. Uh, oh, sorry, I was just reading the chat. It was a close up of Darth Vader, and it was bathed in gold. And I thought I recognized it, and it ended up being the special edition VHS box set that came out in 1997. All right, I got to share this. Sorry, Anthony, but I've And I think I'm back now. I hope. Of course, everything goes popping back up. Lots of windows all of a sudden open back up. All right, let's see.
Lots of windows all of a sudden open back up.
All right. Michael, how we doing?
Yes, I am doing all right.
Awesome. All right, I think I got you in. Hopefully we won't have any other technical difficulties as we go on.
I just figured I'd stop by and say hi.
Oh, I appreciate it. Let me throw the link in case there's somebody else that wants to get on with us. And all right. Which one? No. All right. All right. So that should get us going. All right. So yeah, we were talking about what was I talking about? Oh, that's right. I just was switching topics when the power went out again. And what I was talking about, or was getting ready to talk about, was the special edition Star Wars back in 1997. I don't know if you remember those. If you were, I think you're quite a bit younger than me. So you, how old were you around 1997?
I was born in '78, so.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're a couple of years younger than me then.
Yeah, I wasn't. I wasn't able to go see any of the OT in the theaters, or if I would have, I wouldn't have remembered it. I think I was talking the other day. Could even been on my on mine or whatever. But the first movie I really remember going and see is Gremlins, and I think that was '84.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I would have been about 6 then. Yeah, I was telling the story about how. I told it already, but that was the first movie I really remember seeing. And then everything around there was, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, or like Land Before Time. So all mid E.T. So all mid '80s movies. So I kind of just missed Return of the Jedi by shortly by a year or two, where I would have been 4 or 5 when it came out. So probably too young to, even if I would have gone to see it, which I didn't, that I would have remembered it.
Right. Did you manage to go to see the remakes that they did in '97?
No, I did not. But now I have the original. I have copies of the original trilogy on my. It's actually not on this computer. It's on my old computer that's dead, that I need to get all the files taken off of and put onto this one. But actually, I might have them on my phone too. I'm not sure about that, but
nice.
One of those. I had a buddy that knew somebody that had the originals on a computer somewhere and downloaded them to me, and just kind of, that's the great thing about that. You can pass them around and it doesn't lose, like if you're taping them over for your VCR, and the tape quality.
Yeah.
Way.
Well, the special edition movies, when they re-released in '97, actually hold an important thing for me. January 31st, 1997 was when they re-released A New Hope. Almost a month later, February 21st, they released Empire. And then March 14th is when they released Return of the Jedi. Now, the reason why that is significant to me was in 1996, in April, I was diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now, I was going to school full time. I was working full time, and I had it's just life was just going full tilt. It's just it was hard to deal with, and then having to go through cancer treatments. The chemo was every 2 weeks for a full year. I had 25 treatments of chemo that took 8 hours for them to do, and that left me wiped out for 2 weeks before I could go back and get another dose. So I was mid treatment when these came out. Now, sometimes I just didn't want to go to class. I didn't want to go to work. I really just wanted to escape. Normally, what I did was when I wanted to do that, I would go to the zoo and I would bring my sketchbooks and I would sketch the animals. But with it being January, February, March, it's a little cold to go sit out in the zoo on a bench and draw animals for a few hours. So I would go and watch the Star Wars re-releases, and so they'll always hold uh, a special place for me. So now I was trying to figure out, it's like why would they re-release the original three movies and update them the way that they would, and the cost alone was, I think, cost them an additional $15 million to come up with, to update the films to the way that they are now. 10 million for the original Star Wars and 2.5 million for Empire and Return of the Jedi, because they had to do a whole bunch of pre-work with the first one that they could just duplicate with the other ones. So that's a lot of money just to re-release films, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I mean, especially if you're looking at when you're to make, you need to make your money back on them. So what are you going to, what are you going to see? I mean, so $15 million. So you got to make $15 million back off of it, plus what you're paying for it, plus the marketing. So I'm going to guess off the $15 million for them to make money, they'd probably have to make about 50 million. Just say, because doubling it as 30 with your advertising. I'm just guessing at the numbers. I'm not really sure. I'm putting it like if it was a new movie, what they would do. Usually double your budget, but then again, $15 million is not a lot for marketing for a movie. So I don't really know. But yeah, I mean, I'm not. Do you know offhand what they made in the re-release?
The re-releases, I believe, netted about 35 to 40 million per film. So you're looking at around another $100 million.
Okay, yeah. I mean, so it's respectable, especially for a release.
Now, it's when I was doing the research on this topic, because I was really curious on why they decided to do it. Not only were they trying to capture that magic again, which they started in '96 with the Shadows of the Empire, but it was the way that Lucas really wanted the films to look in the beginning, but because technology was limited, he couldn't really fulfill his vision. And the main thing was to prepare for episode 1. They already knew that was coming out. It was going to come out in 2 years. It was already in pre-production. And to me, this reason makes the most sense. That way, when you're watching them in order, you watch 1, 2, and 3, and they have all these updated graphics. It looks really good. The sound is phenomenal. And then you watch 4, 5, and 6, it regresses and it's grainy. The sound quality isn't quite there. It looks like it was done that long ago. Whereas now, if you watch it, it's almost seamless and it makes more sense. Do you buy that reason?
No, I don't think the reason that they were remade was so that they would flow better. I think that George had his vision on what he wanted to do, and at the time, back in when he started, 75 or 76, even though the first one came out in 77, they didn't have the technology, and that's why they had he had to create ILM, and they were the cutting edge, and they still are today, because there's no one else to do what he wanted done, so he had to make it happen himself. And then going on to the other films, it was the same thing. And then 20 years later, when the technology was there, he said, okay, I'm going to do these things and the touch-ups and whatever. That's where your first, George Lucas ruined my childhood came from, because he put things into the movies that people didn't like or took things out. Especially with 97, I'm not sure how much it was in 97, but I know with some of the later ones, the changes that he made.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was just he had his vision and he did what he could. And then at the time, when he could make changes, he made the changes. Kind of like something to go along with line, since you're new with your podcast. When you take people, okay, for example, Rogue One is recording their 200th episode. As you and I are talking right now, I was just talking to those guys, and they're recording it right now. If you ask them, they would probably love to go back to some of the early episodes and scrap those or be able to redo them. Or if you talk to any podcasters, they're going to say they weren't, they want to do things over. They weren't good. They're still learning, until you get into your groove or whatever. And for you and I, it's not worth it for podcasters or YouTubers to go back and change their podcast or re-record their podcast just to change the sound quality and whatever, because it just doesn't make sense to. But if it's something like a movie that is based on special effects, that's a different story. Or if you were putting together on your YouTube channel, instead of us sitting here talking, you were making fan films or something like that, and then 20 years from now you could touch up those fan films, that would be a different story.
Right.
I know I go back, like I was talking last night, some of my first things that I put on YouTube, I left them on there because they're still there, but they're garbage, in my opinion. And even perfect example, I didn't do my homework properly for yesterday, so we got into we were in the Bacta tank, and I figured the one thing we were going to talk about was going to be much more of a conversation, and everybody's like, no, we agree with you. And I was like, well, okay, what are we talking about now? Here's my, I figured this is going to kill about an hour of time, and we killed about 20 minutes, and the 20 minutes was me talking and everybody else just saying, no, you're right. And I was like, okay, so what are we going to talk about now? So then we just kind of sat there, and that's the whole thing. It's like you've said before, and that was my idea. I want it to be just like you're sitting down at a table with your buddies at the bar and you're talking about something. And, we might change the subject and talk about something else and then go back to it and keep going back and forth. But when you're sitting there at a table with your friends, you're like, okay, so what do we, what now? What now? Sometimes you sit there and you kind of look at each other for a couple minutes. You're like, okay, wait a second, and that's a perfect example, because that's what happened last night. And you know what? It's there. I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to go back and, when I edit it for the podcast, I won't even cut those, that break of that little bit in there. I'm just going to put it up there, and that's what it is, because
right.
Unedited, there you go. But if I actually, not that I don't care, but if I was actually trying to make money off of this, or I wanted the world to see my masterpiece, I'd probably go in and edit some of that dead air and me going, all right, guys, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to do? All right, everybody got an idea, for that. And then that went on for a couple of minutes. Right. And you know what? It's going to be there for everybody here and everybody to see, because that's the way the show is. But if I was trying to impress the world, not that I don't want people to listen and be, but if I wanted to woo people and change the world with my podcast, I'd clean it up a little bit, and so
Right. Well, I agree. I agree with you. Sometimes it's sometimes changes need to be made, and sometimes it's just it's something that you feel like you need to get done. And sometimes I think once you get into that fixing process, you could go a little bit overboard. And I say that to say this. Now, here's some of the things that they changed in the 97 version of the special editions. So that's when you first saw the deleted scene remastered of Han and Jabba talking in the docking bay. And Jabba just, to me, I mean, I like the scene, I like the interaction. Jabba just, to me, did not fit. He looked odd, especially after seeing, Return of the Jedi. Maybe if that was your first time seeing it, it was okay. But knowing, that, hey, this was a puppet to begin with, and now you have this kind of looks digitally inserted character that's in its place, and then Han steps on his tail, and he lets out the squeak, and
Yeah.
that was in there. They changed a lot of the approach shots for Mos Eisley. They changed the approach shots for the when you first see the Sandcrawler. The approach shots when the Sandcrawlers are going down into the Lars homestead. The escape of the Millennium Falcon they changed as well. They digitally inserted animals, whether they were just standalone, like the little thing, dinosaur-looking thing that raised up on its hind legs, and
Yep.
the stormtroopers on the dewbacks, which was a nice touch. I like seeing that. They extended that scene and threw them on some dewbacks and made it a little more realistic as well. And then, of course, the infamous scene where whether or not Han shot first, or because in the original, Greedo shoots first, and I believe in now I get it confused because they've made so many different versions of it.
The original Han shoots first.
Oh, okay, all right. So,
And
like I said, there's so many.
They've slowed it down like frame by frame, and Han does shoot first by a few frames or whatever fractions of a second, but he does shoot first, and the reason Greedo misses him is because he's already been hit. Supposedly, that's I mean, but Han does shoot first in it,
Right.
and then they went and changed it to Han Solo is supposed to be a good guy, even though he's a scoundrel. A good guy isn't going to shoot first. Which when it comes to survival of the fittest, when you're out there, you can be a good-hearted outlaw and still, you got to do what you got to do to survive. When, you have good intentions or good in your heart, and you're surrounded by bounty hunters, it's either, kill or be killed. So,
Right.
but like that's something that, George retcons, and, Dale said that Greedo doesn't even shoot in the first one or in the original. So I'll have to go back and I'll have to check that out. But
yeah, I think the 97 one, Han just kind of, it's Greedo, I think, shoots, and Han just moves his head to the side ever so slightly and then shoots. I think is the way that it works out.
But I mean, like you have so that's a controversial one. George decides for whatever reason he wants to change it.
Mhm.
For the story, maybe he decides, okay, Han's going to be a good guy, or we want Han to be more of a good guy, so he changes it. But so that's actually changing the story, which I'm not a big fan of. Putting the more dewbacks in, which they couldn't afford to do and didn't have the technology to do. I don't have a problem with that. Even there's a couple scenes on Tatooine where he just put rocks on. There's boulders added and rocks added.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at it side by side, there's no reason for it. It doesn't do anything at all for the picture. It's not, even like it's more pleasing or it changes anything. He just decided I'm going to put more rocks there because I want more rocks there. That's fine. The change, the retconning or changing the, it doesn't really change the outcome, but changing the who shot first thing, that one I'm not a big fan of. The other one, I think the thing that's even worse than that is in Jedi, where we get rid of, or we have the music changes.
Oh yeah,
in Jedi, and now you're something that you grew up with, which not a childhood rooting thing, but something that's always been there. Not even going back to the Han who shot first or whatever. It's still the same scene. It doesn't really matter whether there was one blast or two and who it was first or whatever. The scene's going to still be the same, no matter what. The outcome's still the same. Han shoots him and kills him. Whether or not he was shot at first or second or whatever it was, to me that's really not a big deal. And I think it's kind of silly to go ahead and change it, but whatever, it's changed. It is what it is. But omitting something and putting in Jedi Rocks in that song, and that one's just kind of, that's probably my biggest problem with the changes that have been made to.
And I actually wrote that down in my notes here, that how egregious that was. Even there were changes to the story in A New Hope. They added completely new scenes in Jedi. The one that I never had a problem with was Empire. They fixed some major things in there that I thought were pretty distracting in the first one. And not a lot of people have caught this, but if you watch Empire, when the Wampa goes to swipe Luke, you see the pole that the arm is on in the original version. So the whole prop pole, as he swipes through, you can actually, you see the arm, and then at the very end, you see it's like a Q-tip, it's the little claws on the end of the stick, and you actually see the whole stick. So in the remake, they redid that, and they filled in the creature rather than seeing that. They also unclouded the cockpit views of where those the A-wings that go out, the snow speeders. In the original ones, there is like a fog was over those. You really couldn't see anything around it. But in the special edition ones, you could actually see the figures on the ground, the soldiers as they're battling, which I thought was pretty cool. They extended the Millennium Falcon chase scene through the asteroid belt. And then, of course, they added in a few more cloud cars in Bespin, and they changed the approach and extended the approach there. So I had no problem with any of the changes that they made for Empire. But when you get to Jedi and they add in the new song, and with that, I can't even think of that guy's name. That's the singer now. That's in there. They changed up the Sarlacc, where they actually made it like an animated mouth. I thought the original was good enough, and then it just made it really cartoony and out of place in that one. And then later on, they changed a few other things that we can get into.
So for the most part, there isn't anything wrong, and I think it's good. Like you were just saying, getting rid of the pole to make it look better, or cleaning up the edges, making it look so it doesn't look like an old movie, so that maybe not so it flows better. But when your kids watch it, they don't say, "What's this crap?" like where you can definitely tell it's a dated movie, or when you watch a '70s sitcom, or you're watching One Day at a Time or Cheers, you can definitely tell. Not even from what they're wearing, but just the quality of the camera,
Mm-hmm.
or the film, whatever, versus something now, you can definitely tell that it's dated. Well, if you could go through and you have the money to, and it doesn't really matter, and clean it up and make it look like it was shot now or newer, I really don't see a problem with that. It's when you take Cheers, for example, and get rid of all Sam Malone's jokes because they're not PC anymore, and replace them, with a woman bartender or something like that, which is kind of what George does in, Jedi, with the whole cantina scene, or with the
Right.
change it with the band, and put it in Jedi Rocks.
Right.
So
Now, and for those that are in the live chat, I still think we have a few more that have weathered the technical difficulties. Possibly they're still with us. There was a scene that I remember. Now, I have a very vivid imagination, so I don't know if I read this possibly in the Return of the Jedi novelization, or if they changed this from one of the movie editions that they came out with, because they've come out with 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 7 different versions of the movie, where Luke is in Jabba's palace. And it's right before, or right as he's about to fall into the Rancor pit. And he goes down, goes through the door. The Rancor door opens up, and the monster starts to come out. Now, I remember from there a scene where Luke jumps up and grabs a hold of the grate. And like the guards are stomping on his fingers, and he releases and falls into like the Rancor's eye. And then as he falls to the ground is when you see the duck and roll, and he gets up and and he takes off his cloak. Do you remember anything like that?
It's so hard for me because, like, I grew up with the original trilogy on VHS, taped off of HBO.
Mm-hmm.
So I would watch them all the time. But then it went to, you got the special editions, and it was on TV all the time, and watching those on DVD or whatever. And, you kind of forget what the first was, unless you're a crazy purist, or, like you're saying, you remember this, but you're not sure exactly. And, and then I go and I watch the original ones that are unedited, and I'm like, oh wait, I remember that. Oh wait, this part. And whether it was in 97 or 2004 or 2011, all the times they've redone them. So I'm not sure.
Like I said, it could have been something that I read in like the novelization, and as active as my mind is, and the way that my mind works, I'm very visual. So even if I'm reading it, I see the picture in my head. So it's very possible that I just read it somewhere, or possibly it was in a extended universe book or something that I'm recalling, and now I can't find it. Well, especially since the EU is no longer, but I'm always, man, it always bugs me, and I always try to see if anyone else has remembers a scene similar to that.
I mean, I say I do. It's kind of like he fell into it before he landed and did his tuck and roll, like you were saying. So, yeah, that does sound familiar, but then again, it's like you watch it's like watching a movie, what no matter what it is, and it's edited for TV or it's time cut for TV,
Hmm.
and you see it so many times on TV, and then you go and you watch it, um, not edited or cut, and you're like, oh wait, I remember this, I remember that, because you're so used to, even though you saw the original one unedited or uncut, and it's true form, you've seen it so many times the other way, it just kind of, you forget about the old ways until you see it again, and then it all comes back to you, and now the new one's garbage.
Right.
But then you don't have access to the original anymore, so you keep watching what you can, and the same thing happens over and over again, and then you get to, it's just kind of like a vicious cycle until you can get it where, do you have the originals?
I do.
Okay.
I have two different versions. This was going to be like almost like a trivia question. There was a gold edition and a silver edition, and I was going to see who might know or remember what the difference between the two were.
Well, I sure don't. I have trouble whether or not I'm watching the original or 97 or 2004 or 2011, what I'm watching until it happens or doesn't happen. And it's like I said, it's not, a lot of times it's not knowing that I'm missing it until I see that I missed it.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
So here was the difference between the two. All right. The silver one was the pan and scan version of the movies. So it was still special edition. They still made all the changes that they did in 97. But when they released it on VHS, they had the silver was the pan and scan. So the camera would shift along the full frame to get whatever they wanted to, whatever was most important. The gold version was the widescreen version, and it was the least popular one because a lot of people didn't like and weren't used to the black bars on the above and below the screen.
Yeah.
And, they're like, well, we want it on full size on the screen, and they didn't care that if they were missing something off to the left or the right or up or down. The pan and scan ones, especially with my vision being as bad as it is, I don't like pan and scan. It makes me dizzy because it's constantly shifting. So I've always preferred widescreen. It was just really hard to find those then. Now it's a little bit easier. So, but that was the difference between the two.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what I have. I'll have to check and see if I have it on my phone. I know it's definitely not on this computer. But I do have them on my other computer that died. I just need to get the information off of that computer and put it onto this one, but I have to have someone do it for me. And it's past my expertise or lack thereof. Because I can't even I don't even know what to do for that, because I can't even get my computer to turn on, so they need to take it apart and then do whatever they do in computer world to do it. So
yeah. So, is there a favorite change that they made that you really liked, and is there something that they changed that you might not have liked?
The not liked is the Jedi put it in the Jedi Rocks song. The change that I mean, the biggest one is the one that you spoke of earlier with Jabba, and it's kind of weird because when we meet Jabba, or when we hear about Jabba was a mystery. You don't know about Jabba until later on, a few movies later that we see him, and it's kind of like, oh, okay, that's Jabba. But when you meet him, and after the changes were made in Star Wars, he's not really this menacing, scary guy anymore, creature or whatever. That's because when they originally shot it, it was shot with a guy. who I believe they did make an action figure for him.
Oh, I didn't know if they did or not.
I believe they did. I'll look at, I'll double check on that and try and see so I can let you know. But
yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, and I know that in one of the, in fact, it might have been the Laserdisc of Star Wars, where they first showed that deleted scene, and it was a guy that kind of looked almost like like he was at a Renaissance fair, had a big hat and a feather on it. It was maroon and white. And yeah, he's just a portly gentleman. And I don't know. It just didn't really, it looked like a Renaissance fair reject, and never really quite liked that deleted scene. So I was glad that they took it out and kind of left it a mystery, but then they went back once Jabba was established, and it was pretty cool. All right. So Dale asked, he said, Jedi rocks. So Dale, what we're talking about is in Jabba's palace, when you first like when what's her name, the Twi'lek is dancing. She finishes the song, and then they're getting ready to do another song, and they digitally animated a character who was like the lead singer, and they incorporated some of the views of the original movie, but extended the scene and made this really annoying song. And it just I really don't know another way to describe it than it was rather annoying. They made it poppy, and then they almost had like a dance battle between the Twi'lek and another character. And then the Twi'lek, of course, loses, and she goes into the Sarlacc pit. So, Michael, do you have another way of describing or explaining what that song is?
No, not really.
Yeah, do it justice.
Yeah, they took I mean, it completely changes the scene from oh, hang on.
Well, it was the scene was a little more was like somber, and the the music was a little quieter. She was just she was just kind of dancing, and Jabba wanted her to come close, and she wanted to she wanted to do her own thing and not be that close to it. And and then you make this new song in there, and it just made it campy and was over the top, and just really wasn't needed. And it turned something that was more somber and reflective into something of Dance Dance Revolution or Just Dance video game type thing. Are you back, Michael?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I don't know. I always have problems with my headphones. I can't figure out what to do. But
That's all right.
yeah, it was like a techno pop kid song. And yeah, it didn't really fit into there, and it changes it from being like a somber kind of dramatic scene to Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah. For me, I really there were so many scenes that were added that I really liked. It's hard to pick just one. I liked I liked the extra stuff, not necessarily scenes, but I liked the added aesthetics, the dewbacks, some of the elongated chase scenes. I enjoyed those. I did not like most of the stuff that they did in Jedi, such as Jedi Rock or the new Sarlacc, where and the burping animal that's at the beginning of the movie when they pan back from Jabba's palace. Then I think the other thing that they changed, and they changed this one many times, was the celebration and the ending of Return of the Jedi. So of course they in the later editions they changed it to where it was they added in the Boo celebration, the Coruscant celebration. They added a different song to it. They changed, and this wasn't in '97, but they did change this one in Jedi. Is how many times they changed the Force ghosts at the end of the movie, and how long that they were on the screen. It started off where it was just you see Luke, he looks back right before he joins the rest of them, and he sees the two Force ghosts, and I can't think of Sebastian Shaw, I believe was the guy's name, was who played Vader at the very end. When his mask was off, they show him, and then they extended that scene a little bit, a little more. They look at each other and look back and kind of have a little interaction, and then further on, I believe, I think it was the 2004 one redo that they added in Hayden Christensen in as the Force Ghost and took out Sebastian Shaw. So that one I thought I wish they were just left it alone. I enjoyed seeing the older actor as Anakin rather than Hayden Christensen. Yeah, I mean, I liked him as Anakin in the prequels. I thought he brought a lot of emotion to the movies, but I don't see. Yoda was old when he turned into a Force ghost, and his, the Force ghost was old. Obi-Wan was old when he became one with the Force, and his Force ghost was old. What if they would have put in, Ewan McGregor instead of Alec Guinness there? To me, it's about the same. The same thing of changing him. I preferred it. He died as an older man. Leave him as an older man Force ghost. Nobody would have said anything about it. So I don't know why they changed that. That just kind of bugs me a little.
Yeah, I mean that one brings up a lot of questions on what So why did he change then? Why is he now young? And even though we never saw him at that time as young, so why did he go back for that? I'm just not sure. So we have the young Hayden Christensen in there instead of Sebastian Shaw, and that just brings up so many questions on why. Is that because that was the last time he was actually good? And heart. But then you can argue, well, he was actually good when he turned back to the light side and saved his son and killed the Emperor.
Yeah, if he was redeemed, then, he's redeemed.
So I mean, both arguments, for that kind of are valid, but can negate each other. I think that's just what they decided to do, and it wasn't really for the best. But
right. So here's the dates that I had. So they redid them in 1997 and re-released them in theaters. They added some things to them in 2004. They redid it again in 2006. They redid them again in 2011. They updated some more things in 2015. And then the last one, and I'm guessing it will be the final edition of the original trilogy, came in 2019, which they didn't really add a whole lot to the movies other than McClunky. But they did update the graphics, they did update the sound to now that they're digital, it's a lot easier to do that. To make it more modern and to make it, I still think maybe they have to make it flow better and to make them all look like it's part of the same saga rather than part of them done here and part of them done a long time ago, and and then of course the sequel trilogy being the most modern.
I mean, that could be. I'm still not sure about that, but it's we could. I'll do a little bit more soul searching on that aspect of it. But now, what changes were made in this one? We have the Han shooting first was changed again. With the McClunky. And I know there was a few other changes in there, but I don't think they were major because I don't remember hearing too much about it. Because it doesn't matter if as soon as anything's changed, whether it's like I was saying, you put rocks in there, people are going to complain. I don't really care that they changed the rocks, but I think it was pointless. But for whatever reason, they decided to do it, and it's done. It doesn't do anything to the story. It doesn't. It's not like that whole thing with the rocks when he put added 3 boulders in or 3 rocks. It doesn't do anything to it.
Right.
It doesn't even make it. I just there was absolutely no point to it whatsoever that I can think of or know of. Unless it reminded him of 3 rocks he had in his backyard as a kid growing up or something. I don't know. But
I think
it's like
I think the main changes that were made in the 2019 version, if my memory is serving me correctly, they went from 70 or 65 millimeter print to 70 millimeter digital. So they filled in all the little gaps along on the sides and whatnot, and they extended it out to a 70 millimeter so they can add in its what do they call that? The 4K. So
okay.
yeah, so they updated them all for that higher resolution, and in order to do that, I believe they had to go to a 70 millimeter. I could be wrong on that, but I think that I did read that in some of the literature that I saw. But there wasn't much added to it other than a few things here, bells and whistles, nothing too glamorous other than changing the McClunky scene.
I can tell you that there is definitely a difference, and I don't have a 4K TV. I just have a regular 1080 TV or whatever it is. Watching them off Disney Plus versus watching it off of even Netflix or whatever. They look better, and I could watch it in 4K. Even though I don't have a 4K TV, 4K still looks amazing compared to just regular. So it has to be, I don't know the scientifics or whatever of how, I understand what the difference between 4K and 1080 is, but watching 4K on a 1080 is still better than watching 1080 on a 1080.
Right. Right.
Even though it still doesn't have the same effect, it's still better. So.
Right. All right. Well, Michael, I hate to cut this short, but my toes are frozen and I need to go and turn off the computer so I can turn on some more heaters. That way the electricity doesn't go off. But I appreciate you jumping on with me. Tell everyone where they can find you again.
Pretty much if you go to any of the social media platforms, you put in TwoMed2, you're going to find me. My YouTube channel, it's the TwoMed2 Star Wars Network. And on there on Monday nights, we have TwoMed2's Bacta Tank. There's a couple other things that we have on there that don't really have specific times. There's the Coruscant Coach's Corner with myself and Mike Pappas. We recorded 3 episodes the one day, and I'm still putting them out. It could be 3 months before we record another episode. It's just whenever we can get anything done. I have another one collecting with Kylo, my buddy Kylo from Kylo Customs. He collects Funko Pops, and since I don't collect Funko Pops, when I do maybe acquire some, I go on and I talk with him about it. And I do some other stuff. I have some other stuff I'm going to be doing, here and there. I don't really have time to do everything I'd like to, but I'm going to be going over some more books and going over some dictionaries and encyclopedias and, things of that nature.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. I really love when you get into your books and you share them with us. And especially me, I don't have any of the books hardly. I think I have like 2. But so I enjoy your reviews of them. And when we're on together on your Bacta tank, and you show all the pictures and just show how cool they are. So yeah, that's awesome. I look forward to our discussions here in this coming week and being back live with you on Monday, and then hopefully back here again on Tuesday. I'd also like to thank Chris King for stopping by the live chat, Dale Erdman, of course, Anthony, the rural farm boy, and I think that's who we had visiting us today. Again, I am Charlie Skywalker, and I really appreciate you guys stopping in on Star Wars Through the Ages. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you very much.